Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to the show. You know, as entrepreneurs and small business owners, it's imperative that we have a good mentor or coach, not only to help us accomplish success, but to avoid pitfalls along the way. The only trouble is, how do we choose a great coach or mentor? Well, there's many of them out there who've devoted their lives to great education and people that have accomplished many great things. But I think a real key is finding somebody that's made empowerment a way of life. The ability to empower others is no easy task. And remember, if you develop the gift to empowering others, it's a guaranteed investment for your company and personal success. Well, today on the show, we're going to introduce you to an individual that's devoted their life to serving others and empowering others. We have entrepreneur, radio talk show host, author, and speaker, Greg Gieson's on the show. Amazing gentleman. Things. Please give a warm welcome to Greg Gieson, everybody.
Glad to have you.
How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Greg. How are you?
Oh, that's great. You know, what's funny is you were talking about the migraine. I believe that happened when you were talking to me.
It was. You know, we were actually talking at lunch a little bit about what we were going to go over and your information, which we're going to get really into. I'm really interested in this Leading from Within program that you're doing. But we were actually talking at lunch, and all of a sudden, I started getting, it came on so strong, and then I just kind of stopped, and I'm like, and that's it. I need to go home.
Now, I see that from a lot of women that I go out with.
Yeah,
so I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I guess I go both ways.
Well, and let's talk a little bit, let's jump right into your program. I've done a lot of research on Leading from Within. Tell the audience a little bit about why it's different from other programs and leadership, programs out there.
Yeah, it's a 3-day, 2-night program, and there's public version, and then there's a version for intact teams. And both end up being really powerful, but if I had to sum it up, I would say it's kind of like a personal retreat for people where you get to go, take a 3-day time out, and we limit it to 16 people because the group dynamics are critical to create the safety and comfort. And you get to step back and look at your life and look at what's working, what's not, what needs tweaking. And you do it in a supportive environment where you can really play devil's advocate with yourself. And we provide a little bit of education. We provide the group dynamics to where you feel comfortable with the people, you can be vulnerable, and most importantly, you can be truly honest with yourself, which is the whole point of the workshop.
And you actually set up different activities, correct? So
Yeah.
I know that a few years ago I did a couple of triathlons. That was several years ago. And but they have these other activity type things that you set up where you ride a mountain bike, and then you canoe, and then you rappel, and they have. But your seminar, in my mind, it's almost like a cross between that and an empowerment thing, because you set up different activities, and as you said, in that life situation, on the activity, they're learning these life lessons, and they didn't even realize that something they just learned was very profound that can be applied in their personal or business life. And there's real breakthroughs in that environment. Yeah,
it's an indoor-outdoor classroom, so that's why the environment is usually at a ranch or someplace where we can use the outside. And the reality is the first day I have to build a lot of trust between this group so people feel comfortable doing the work they need to do. And to do that, these outdoor activities are very trust-oriented, but it pays off because when you physically have to trust somebody, it's a lot easier emotionally that night to be able to do another exercise because you've already been there. And so the group really takes off, which is also why when an intact team does this together, they don't even realize they're getting team building out of this workshop.
Yeah, and I know we talked earlier that you said that sometimes people will even feel comfortable enough to share things they haven't possibly even told their spouse.
Yep.
So that shows that you're really reaching a certain level.
You know, we had one guy who held back the fact that he was in prison and for attempted murder. And the first night, he realized that if he was going to get anything out of this workshop and do the work, he needed to come clean. He put it out there. He took the risk. Now he's a motivational speaker around the country for high school kids.
I kind of imagine sitting by a campfire with a guitar and s'mores.
John
and then all of a
Denver.
sudden it's like, by the way. But that sounds like a real blast. And I'm kind of picturing, is it equal men to women, or?
Yeah, you know, it is. And a lot of companies send employees. And in the early years, I've been doing it for 16 years, you know, they would send some of their problematic employees so I could fix them.
Sure.
But they've come to realize that it's not about being fixed. And so now we're getting everybody showing up for the workshop.
If I can kind of imagine, like, you know, on this retreat catching a trout and saying, let me tell you what this represents. You're the trout. No, but I think that they're very fun. And
I know,
people are
I know.
having, from the testimonials I was reading online, people are having real breakthroughs.
Yeah.
There's people really singing your praises. I was curious as to a corporate application. I know that, is it better for corporations to kind of send their people, and does that work well? Or is it better if individuals, if you go with people you don't know, is that better? Or?
You know, it works both ways. The funny thing is, and again, we've been doing this for 16 years, is when it's a public course, people will write in the feedback, I'm glad my colleagues weren't here, I wouldn't have shared all that.
Sure.
But then when we bring an intact executive team in, and keep in mind, some of them go in, you know, dragging their feet because they're a little hesitant for that very reason. At the end of it, they're like, this was the only way to do it, because not only do they grow as an individual leader, but the only way that works is if the team comes together to create this support system. And so they walk out of there, this one team where everybody was vulnerable and shared things together. And so it's very powerful. So it works both ways.
Mm-hmm. I know you know this from experience, but they say that one of the best learning tools is to put yourself in a situation where you're taking on, you know, teaching others and mentoring others, because it's pretty easy to skate by, but when you have to teach something to somebody, a lot of times we benefit as much or more than the student. What have you learned about yourself from all these different activities?
You know, from this workshop, I think I've really learned what my purpose is in life. And that's part of what happens in the workshop, is people try and define their purpose in a sentence. And that's what I've learned, is that the difference that I'm making is probably primarily through this program, because that's where most of the breakthroughs occur.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, one more time, the site is?
GregGiesen.com, GIESEN.com.
GregGiesen.com, everybody. Everybody, there you go. Free gift. Greg, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome, Dan.
Please come back. I know we're out of time, but you've been an amazing guest, and I hope to get together again and follow up with what you're doing. I know you have a lot of big things in the works. Guys, that's our show. Thank you very much for tuning in. And don't forget to get involved in your local community and be forgiving of others. Good night, everybody.